Америкадан сөйлеп тұрмыз. Сөйлеп тұрған Америка, алдарыңызда Серікжан Біләшұлы. Ассалаумағалейкум көпшілік. Сіздердің назарларыңызға осыдан сәл бұрын Америкадағы әйгілі телебағдарлама, радио бағдарламаларды жүргізуші журналистермен жасаған ағылшын тіліндегі сұхбатымыздың бір бөлігін ұсынып отырмыз. Бұл сұхбатымыз Қытай Коммунистік партиясы Шыңжаңдағы халықтарға не істеді деген тақырыпта өрбіген болатын. Сұхбатымыздың болған уақыты наурыз айының соңына тамам болды. Білесіздер, What's the CCP did to Xinjiang people деп ағылшынша іздесеңіздер шыға келеді. Бұл тақырыбымыз ертең, яғни ертең жексенбі күні кешкі сағат 8-9-да тағы болады. Бұдан кейін әр жексенбіде бұл сұхбатты жалғастырамыз деп отырмыз. Сұхбатымызды жүргізушілер осы Америка қауымына әйгілі жүргізушілер Мәсью Мелтон және доктор Черчилль. Бұлардың жүргізетін сұхбаттары Democracy Radio Talk Show. Біз осы ток-шоуға қатынасып, Шыңжаңдағы болып жатқан сұмдықтар туралы өзіміздің істеген жұмыстарымызды, көзқарастарымызды жеткіздік және бұны бүкіл Америка халқына 11:50 KKNW радиосы жаңағы жексенбі күнгі жаңағы түстен кейінгі 6-7 аралығында жеткізіп отырды. Бұл радио торабы негізінен Сиэтлға орналасқан. Сиэтл уақыты бойынша 6-7 аралығы. Ертең жексенбі бізде сол 8-9 аралығында бізде осы телефон арқылы Тексастан осы сұхбатқа қатынасамыз. Бұл сұхбаттар бізге осығанға дейін біз бірнеше радио, телевизия сұхбаттарына шығып отырдық. Көбінде жаңағы арнайы патент болғандықтан тек сілтемелерін ғана Фейсбукте жарияладық. Ал сұхбаттың түпнұсқаларын өзіміздің YouTube каналымызға жариялаудың мүмкіндіктері болған жоқ. Алдағы уақытта, егер олар рұқсат бере жатса, біз алдағы уақытта осы сұхбаттарымыздың ағылшынша нұсқасында жариялаймыз. Ендеше сайттан көре аласыздар 11:50 kknw.com. Осы сұхбатты көріп қатыса аласыздар. Сұхбатта не айтты дейсіздер ғой? Соңғы 5 жылда Қытай коммунистерінің ондағы жасап жатқан қазақтарға, ұйғырларға, қырғыздарға, татар, тәжіктерге жасаған геноцидті, фашистік саясаты, қорлық, зорлығы, түрмедегі азаптаулар, адамдық құқық таптау, бір отбасына айыру, бала-шағаларды жетім қалдыру, ермен әйелдерді бөлшектеу, мәжбүрлі еңбек, мәжбүрлі түсік жасату, жаңағы ерлерді, белсіз әйелдерді бедеу қылуға ұмтылу, биохимиялық белгісіз дәрі-дәрмектерді, уколдарды салу, қысқасы бүкіл адамзатқа қарсы жасаған, қолымызға жеткен барлық дәлел фактілерді біз әлем қауымдастығына жеткізудеміз. Енді What the CCP did to Xinjiang people continual talk about CCP's Xinjiang genocide of Muslim minority by Mr. Серікжан Біләш деп жазсаңыздар шығады. Recently just деп осының бәрін енді бұндағы айтқан әңгімеміз бұдан бұрынғыда лекцияларымызда айтылғандықтан қайталамаймыз. Жалпы өзіміздің халқымызға, қарагөз қазақтарымызға, жалпы бізді қолдайтын басқа да бауырлас халықтарға біздің не істеп жатқанымызды жеткізгіміз келді. Білесіздер, соңғы кезде барлық медиалар жапа тармағай осы тақырыпты көтеріп жатыр. Қытайға бүкіл әлемді қысым күшеуде. Міне Қытай билігі қазір бейне жынданған сияқты болып бүкіл әлемдік ірі брендтерді өртеп, әдеттегі кино жұлдыздары, шоумен, әртістерге дейін өздерінің қымбат-қымбатқа сатып алған әлемге әйгілі шетелдік бренд маркада киімдерін қайшымен қиып, отқа өртеп, шетелге қарсылығын білдіріп жатыр. Бұның барлығы коммунистер тарапынан арнайы ұйымдастырылған шоу. Анығында оның барлығы осы нағыз атажұрт еріктілері жаңағы қамдаған тағы басқа да жаңағы адамдардың қамдауыменен Қытайдағы мәжбүрлі еңбек, зорлықты еңбек, ақысыз еңбек, құлдық еңбек, жалпы адамзатқа қарсы қылмыс, миллиондаған ашылық қауымды лагерге қамау, оларды қанау, осы барыстың барлығын біз дәлелдеп 5 жыл бойы бүкіл әлем қауымдасқа жеткіздік. Нәтижесінде бүкіл дүние жүзіндегі жаңағы мақта қауымдастығы Қытайдың Шыңжаңындағы мақталарды өздерінің киімдеріне қабылдамау туралы шешім қабылдады. Яғни мақтадан тоқылатын тоқыма бұйымдарға Шыңжаңнан, яғни Шығыс Түркістаннан өндірілетін мақта өнімдерін алмауға шешім қабылдады, шикізат есебінде. Ал бұл бүкіл Қытайдағы мақтаның негізгі өндірушісі болатын Шыңжаң екендігін бәріміз білеміз. Бұл Қытайдың өнеркәсібі экспорт үшін үлкен шығын, үлкен сұмдық зиян болғалы тұр. Енді осы мәселеде жаңағы шетелдік брендтерді Қытай өзінше өз нарығында шектеп, олардан өш алмақшы болып отыр. Білесіздер, жуырда Еуропарламент Қытайға санкция салып отыр, оған Англия қосылды, Америка мен Канада ежелден бар. Міне Еуропа, Англия, Канада, Америка бұның өзі әлемдегі үлкен ірі экономикалық тұлғалар. Енді Қытайға осы салынған санкциялардың нәтижесінде Қытайда қазір қымбатшылық көбейіп жатыр, зауыттар қаңырап бос тұр. Шетелге бұрын 100 зауыт тауар экспорттайтын болса, қазір олардың кем дегенде бір 50% жабылып отыр. Гуандун, Жаңсу, Жыжаң қатарлы дамыған бай өлкелерінде қазір жұмыссыздық асқынған, заттың бағасы қымбаттанған, тамақ, ет, жұмыртқа, көкөніс өсуде, шетелге экспорт болмағандықтан миллиондаған адамдар жұмыссыз қалып отыр. Тіпті Қытайдың премьер-министрі Ли Кечаңның өзі осы бір жылға жуық уақыттың алдында Қытайдың 1/3 халқының жаңағы айлығы 50 мың теңгеге жетпей қалғандығын жариялаған болатын. Демек, Қытайдың өзі қазір кедейшіліктің жаңағы қамытында тұр. Ал компартия бұғанға дейінгі халықты қанаумен және дүниедегі әділетсіз саудасыменен жинаған зор қаржысын қазір ұрдап-жырдап шетелге алып қашып жатқандарды ұстауменен айналысуда. Қытайдың миллиардерлері мен миллионерлеріне де үлкен қауіп төніп тұр. Қаншама миллиардерлер тұтқындалды. Яғни Қытайда үлкен бір экономикалық, үлкен бір шайқалыс тұр. Бұл мөлшермен 1989-1990 жылғы құлағалы тұрған Совет одағын елестетеді. Жалпы Қытайда болып жатқан осындай экономикалық бұл толқындар ертең домино толқыны сияқты бүкіл Қытайдың саласына кететіндігін, Қытайдағы әрбір бизнесмен, әрбір халық, әрбір коммунист, әрбір үкіметтік қызметкер өзінің жаңағы өмір сүру үшін енді ары қарай Қытайда үлкен зор зобалаң туылуына себеп болатындығын алдын ала болжауға болады. Себебі Совет одағы да 89-90 жылдың өзінде осындай экономикалық тоқыраудың шегіне жеткен, ең соңында мемлекеті күйреп тынған болатын. Ендеше тек қана мақта өнімдеріне тыйым салудан шыққан осындай үлкен нәтиже бұл бейне баттерфлай эффекті немесе жаңағы біріне-бірі қатысты эффектілер сияқты болып үлкен қоғамдық ықпал тудырып отыр. Алда жағымды жаңалықтар көбейеді деп ойлаймыз. Ендеше ағылшын тілінде болған сұхбатты тыңдағыларыңыз келсе тыңдарсыздар. Біз бұны жалпы жастарға үлгі болсын деп, алдағы уақытта біздің жастарымызда шетелдің тілдерін жақсы меңгеріп, әсіресе ағылшын тілін меңгеріп, әрбір қазақтың құқын қорғас екен деп, өзгеге үлгі болсын деп жіберіп отырмыз. Ендеше назарларыңызда ағылшын тілінде болған сұхбат. Құрметпен Серікжан Біләшұлы.
This is Radio Freedom.
Good evening, audience, voters, taxpayers, friends, Americans, and countrymen. In Seattle, Mercer Island, Bellevue, Redmond, Issaquah, and on the east side, and I-5 corridors, many local cities. Welcoming tonight's Matthew Melton's Democracy Show on AM 1150, featuring Liberal Democratic talk show host Matthew Melton, broadcasting live Sunday nights from the 425, with his inductive and often insightful reasoning skills, political commentary, and opinions on a wide range of American and international political topics, and some mainstream media topics which are not political in nature, but still in current media. I hope that you're happy to be listening to American Talk Radio at its finest, because I'm happy to be here as your host this evening. So get ready, and I'll be right back.
I'm your host, Matthew Melton. This is Radio Freedom for the Puget Sound. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope that you are ready to get your dose of good quality human rights coverage here tonight. We will have some guest speakers on that will just astound you, and I can't wait to get started. We are the show with the live Churchillian narrative from the father of the Lincoln Party himself. He's Dr. Pano Churchill. Dr. Churchill, are you there?
Yes, indeed. Good evening, listeners. And
sounds like Dr. Churchill. There he is. Well, welcome, my co-hosts.
Thank you, Matthew.
What a rainy Sunday it is in the Puget Sound this evening, and we're going to be talking about some very important issues tonight. And I understand that that you have something planned that you'd like to speak about before we start introducing our speakers. So would you like to get started with that?
Of
And
course.
I will then bring the speakers near the bottom of the hour. Let's get up for that.
Good evening. Most important this evening, we must address the issues of human rights because we have very limited opportunity to speak about human rights within our own country. Many people are suffering the ignominy of homelessness. And if there is an issue that speaks to the hearts of America, is to have our fellow citizens being without proper shelter in this middle of this long and cold winter that has passed in the last few months in a country that has been under the difficult circumstances of lockdown and vastly diminished services. And we do find the most horrible conditions being in those cities that do not care for their own citizens in reality, whereas they care only for the enrichment of both public officials, corporations, businesses, and they pay no attention to the ones amongst us who are considered dispensable. There is no bigger human rights issue than the actual incarceration of poverty, which bedevils all American cities, towns, and even villages. And that poverty is manifest with the expectant 30 to 50 million homeless people within the wealthiest country in the world. If that doesn't steer people to action, at least let us ask for your reflection and some Christian compassion to this issue, because obviously, if there is one matter that we must address together, is how to shelter our brothers and sisters in the proper way, knowing fully well that it is the least of us, the weakest amongst us, and the ones most suffering who deserve our attention the most. It is not the mighty, it is not the wealthy, it is not the powerful, it is not the government types who take advantage of the situation to enrich themselves, and they create the industry of homelessness. But it is rather the homeless people whom we need to look at, especially in this period of Lent, in order to find solutions to house them, knowing that solutions are myriad, solutions are very available, and yet it is the local governments who do not wish to see that solution taking place because they profit from the industrial complex called homelessness advocacy. And I speak for the city of Seattle, first and foremost, that has descended into the status of a criminal enterprise by not only not taking care of the homeless people, but by actively causing more homelessness through their building department codes and the various bureaucrats who are just acting like the Gestapo in creating more homelessness in our city. And I fault for that the mayor throughout the line and the people, in the building department, starting from the very racist and anti-Semitic Nathan Torgelson, the head of the building department, and Miss Jenny Darkan, who has revealed herself to be, an unfathomable racist person. And how did we land, such mayors in this city that do not care about anybody else except their own personal enjoyment, gratification, and enrichment? I think these are the times that shake people's faith in local governments and the general government that instead of supporting the people, they try to exploit them. So I think that we should look out for each other, and this is the time to support each other. And we started a new initiative through the Churchill Society to house the unhoused, to provide home for the homeless, and to provide care for the children of homelessness within the schools that they are now closed and they need to be reopened. So to that, the initiative that I support, sponsored by the Churchill Society, is none other than allowing individuals to come in contact with each other in the sense that we have to take personal responsibility for homelessness. We have to dismiss the bureaucrats. We have to dismiss the evil of city governments. And we have to take personal leadership, an executive decision of housing the unhoused, housing the homeless, providing shelter for those who absolutely need it in this most difficult of times. And I would be the first ones to say that I would open up my home to invite others people who suffer through homelessness. And if every one of us can do that by inviting one person into their home in a way that we are not afraid of COVID or anything else, it will be the greatest thing we can do for our compatriots, for our citizens, and certainly for our people. So to that I declare, we can solve the homelessness issue together without any support from these evil local governments who are actually care none except to perpetuate the problem so they can profit from it. And without further ado, I invite you to message me here and to let me know, and I will apportion the messages as a meeting place of those who have to offer and those who need to receive, a room, and we will put it accordingly in such a way that we can save lives from those exposed to the elements. Thank you, and God bless you. I'll be waiting for your calls. Take care away, Matthew.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. Well, let us shift. I'd like to put out the station numbers now. If you're out there in our listening audience tonight, you have comments or opinions pertaining to this show, please give us a call when I ask for callers. Here are the station numbers. I'll say them twice, and please write them down. Ready? 425-373-5527, and toll free in Western Washington. That's 888-298-5569. Here they are again. 425-373-5527, and toll free in Western Washington. That's 888-298-5569. Tonight we will have a very interesting caller on who is part of the Human Rights Commission pertaining to human rights in China. And we've been on a several week-long series now following human rights violations in China. Dr. Churchill has a lot to say about it. When I put out the station numbers again and ask for callers, feel free to call in, ask questions, make remarks. Keep your questions and remarks to 2 to 3 minutes, please, so that several people will have a chance to call in if we get a lot of callers this evening. Our special guest tonight will be Jane Shohong Jin of the China Human Rights Alliance, and I believe she is vice president of that, and also Serikžan Bilāš, and she is also with the Human Rights Commission for China. Dr. Churchill, did you have anything else you wanted to say before I introduce our first guest? I will be bringing on Jane first, and then we will bring in our special guest for this evening, Serikžan Bilāš, and you'll have a chance to ask her questions. So if you have anything else that...
The most important thing that I said is before, as well as prior shows, as well as today, is that let's take care of the people around us, first and foremost. And while we care for the people throughout the world who suffer vast human rights abuses, I consider, the abuses inflicted upon our own people of our own doing tremendously important as a big human rights issue in America. And homelessness is one of them. It's a debilitating circumstance, and it's certainly something that we can cure without the help of government. So let us do it. And let us remember that it's on the same footing like all these horrible human rights abuses that take place across the waters of the Pacific in China. So let us rise up to the circumstance and cure the condition that befalls our brothers and sisters here in Seattle, here in Pacific Northwest, and here throughout the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. And I have to use the term kleptomania regarding homelessness. I don't know any term that is really deep, penetrating, hard hitting. When I call homelessness kleptomania from our society towards those who are, it kind of sums it up, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel
I want to talk a lot more about homelessness
to the people of the building department, of our city, to the people at the mayor's office, to the mayor herself, and to every bureaucrat, who is actually enjoying, this illicit wealth from the services that they are supposed to be providing to the homeless people in order to perpetuate the problem, and they are causing more homelessness every day to their own resources because they benefit from that. So whether it's kleptomania or whether it's power hungry and lusty for capital money and the services and the illicit gains that they enjoy, our whole bureaucracy and our governing, structures at the local level, they're terribly corrupt, terribly racist, and they definitely have to be dismissed. If not, they also have to be tried, for these criminal abuses. No question, no question. I agree, and everybody who's listening, they can bring out their experiences with the kleptomaniac, corrupt, people of the Seattle bureaucracy at the mayor's level and throughout the building department, and these corrupt individuals. And we can name names. We have Todd Meadows, who is a famous racist and anti-Semite, and he has to be singled out by all the people of Seattle for accepting and seeking bribes, consistently and making homeless people. And, Rachel, another person who works with him. But most importantly, Mr. Nathan Torgerson, who is, a famous anti-Semitic racist, and he's at the head of that corrupt department. These are unelected people that wield tremendous power in a democratic society without ever having to be accountable. But the people should boot them out because we no longer need racists, to be in that executive positions. And it's all the responsibility of Mayor Jenny Durkan, who not only allows that, but she enjoys the benefits commensurate, with her position. And she presides above the cesspool of corruption and any illicit profits. Yes, they are kleptomaniacs and worse. They're damnable racists. They all have to go, and then make others suffer. But for now, let us motivate the people to do their own and save our brothers and sisters from homelessness through individual executive action. And I think, that covers it all, because you cannot cure kleptomania without, calling these people onto the docket and passing judgment in a good court of the public opinion and, of course, in the courts of law. But we have to do that, and you have to avoid the corruption of the civil courts that the city also has, on their own, in order to whitewash those terrible crimes, as they've been doing for many years. It is our time to now stand up and call these people to the carpet, make them accountable. And it starts with the prosecutors who do not prosecute these corrupt individuals, that they know that they've been asking for bribes for people and causing further homelessness. So I put it out to our good people, as always, find justice for our own actions. Time to rise up. And I think kleptomaniacs abound in the city government of Seattle. But that's the case everywhere when people are given unelected power for far too long and they have not been held accountable. And I aim to correct that, because after all, I am also the leader of an anti-corruption organization of whistleblowers, and we've got the goods on those people. And soon enough, I hope that those crimes against humanity, they will come to be addressed. But for now, let us stand back to the other side of the Pacific, where vast crimes against humanity occur, and let us, Jane, introduce your guests. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. And we have some terrific Churchillian narrative rolling tonight from the father of the Lincoln Party. He is Dr. Pano Churchill, my co-host. I think let's go to break. And when we return, Serikžan Біләшұлы Jin will also be returning this evening. So please stay tuned and please be a caller in the next portion of the show. We'll be back. Matthew Melton, your host of Matthew Melton's Democracy Show, live here on Sunday nights on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. And I want to tell you about this great new app. It's called Sheerganic, and it's at the Apple App Store now. And I also have to tell you that you're going to love it. People out there are out of work right now, and it's pretty to be frugal in my opinion. So I'm going to lay it on the line. Why buy when you can rent? Also, do you want to make a few bucks or more? Maybe listing things that you own but don't use much, like mountain bikes, kayaks, motorcycles, hoverboards, and you name it. It can be a rental on Sheerganic.com. That's Sheerganic, now the #1 app to buy, sell, trade, rent, and rent out items. Download Sheerganic today in the Apple App Store or go to Sheerganic.com. Also coming soon to Google Play Store. Sheerganic, 100% homegrown sharing. Think of finding a private rental on Sheerganic.com when you want to go power boating and skiing one summer weekend. And that's just one example. Sheerganic, for everything you ever wanted to use and never wanted to have to buy. Or be entrepreneurial but rent out your unused stuff. Fresh Organic. You're going to love it. Be safe and be well.
Hello, listeners of KKNW, that's 1150 on your AM dial, here on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. And did you want to know who is tops in home organizing and as a local cleaning service in Seattle? Try Seattle Home Organizing Wiz. That's Seattle Home Organizing Wiz at 206-430-0240. And you'll be impressed by the courteous and hardworking staff who want to take on all of your tough jobs, as well as one-time appointments and weekly and bi-monthly and monthly scheduled cleanings. Seattle Home Organizing Wiz also wants to organize your home and office. Call them at 206-430-0240. That's 206-430-0240. Seattle Home Organizing Wiz. That's all lowercase. And ask for Denina. Good evening, AM Talk listeners in Seattle, Bellevue, Redmond, Issaquah, Greater East Side, and I-5 corridor. This is Matthew Melton of Matthew Melton's Democracy Show, here on Sunday nights at AM 1150. And do you need moving help right now? Well, if you do, call ALITCO.com. That's all lowercase, HAULITCO.com. That's right, ALITCO.com for your local moves, moving help, and also your small interior moves. Call ALITCO.com at 425-753-1743 for friendly, affordable moving service. Use our backs, save yours. But sometimes last-minute moves are okay. Just call and ask at 425-753-1743. That's ALITCO.com and ask for Dave. We're moving people to new places, so let's get moving.
Stay tuned. We're here. Get the lowdown and scope of national Politico with the boys here on Sunday nights. Tune in, listen live, and get informed where American intelligence has talent. My former regular guest is now my co-host. He's Dr. Pano Churchill, Bleeding Edge blog editor and Lincoln Party of Independence father. He's also a retired American intelligence unsung hero, and he'll be here to answer your questions and to fill you in on current political events and often the events of national and international politics that you seek those immediate answers for. Yes, we accept your calls here and give good answers, so listen live and be a caller. Please tune in Sunday nights, 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. or listen live from anywhere at 1150kknw.com and 1150 on your AM dial, where we want to be your favorite choice in Politico and live alternative talk radio, and be a caller because we want to hear you live on Sunday nights. I'm Matthew Melton, your host, along with my all-new co-host, Dr. Pano Churchill, and we are Matthew Melton's Democracy Show. Check out my all-new show format, where I've added some real intel to my show. And stay tuned. We're here.
Find our app in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and take us with you wherever you go. Alternative Talk AM.
Matthew Melton with Dr. Pano Churchill, father of the Lincoln Party. We are Radio Liberty for the Puget Sound on Sunday nights, 6 p.m., running until 7 p.m. Tonight, we're continuing our human rights series. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the president of the China Human Rights Alliance. She has been visiting our show for the past several episodes. I'd like to keep her on board for a lot longer. She is Jane Shohong Jin, and I call her Jane of Liberty and Jane of Human Rights. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Mr. Melton, and thank you, Dr. Churchill. And we also thank you for our guest for tuning in to listen to this democracy and human rights talk show. And as the Chinese Democracy and Human Rights Alliance, we pay attention to recently what just happened in Alaska. The United States Secretary of State Blinken met the Chinese delegation in Ankara and talked about the Chinese human rights regarding Xinjiang and with Uyghurs and Tatar Tajiks and also Tibetan human rights and Chinese human rights. And so Secretary Blinken and made it pretty clear we care about the Chinese human rights. especially those minority people's human rights. And the CCP regime put millions of people into the prison camp, and they call it education or job training camp, and that is totally lie. And however, after Secretary Blinken talked about the Chinese human rights bad record, and the CCP regime attacked the United States for we are not treating the Black Lives Matters well, and also against the Asians. And so this is a totally switch the attention, intentionally designed, strategic-wise, attack the United States. It's during the election they doing that, and even today they still try to attack the United States. And actually, United States respect the people and respect the people's human rights. And so we do need to approve some area. No one is perfect, but CCP regime is seriously violated the human rights entire national-wide, especially what the way they treated the minorities. Today, we have a first-hand. We have an honorable guest from Xinjiang, who's Mr. From Xinjiang, Mr. Serikžan Bilәшұlы, and he is the Chinese minority human rights activist and also leader. And so we invited him to this program, and who can tell you what happened in Xinjiang minority area as a Kazakhstan person. And he experienced and see and hear and interviewed thousands of people, and under the CCP control, under the inhuman condition. So, Mr. Bilәшұlы, are you there? Hello?
Welcome, Serikžan Bilәšұlы. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you're welcome to the program.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Churchill.
Hello.
Very glad to talk with you.
Hello, I'm host Matthew Melton.
And my name is Serikžan
Churchill.
Bilәšұlы. Let me introduce myself. My name is Serikžan Bilәšұlы, and I'm born at Xinjiang, China. And my nation is Kazakh. And I led one human rights organization based in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and we collected more than 30,000 first-hand facts about re-education camps in Xinjiang, China. And all these facts is based on the CCP regime. The Chinese Communist Party arrested around 3 million of Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Kyrgyzs, and other ethnic minorities. And all these ethnic minorities, they living in this territory called the Xinjiang from the thousands of years. And the CCP occupied this territory and also never stopped the killing, arresting these innocent people. And already until now, we collected more than 30,000 first-hand facts about the Kazakhs were arrested by Chinese regime, and most of them now were sentenced for around 20 years, 15 years, or 30 years, and now until now, hundreds of thousands of Kazakhs disappeared. Nobody knows what happened on them, and their houses, their families, are destroyed by CCP regime.
And also, we heard that the people have been disappearing from different areas, and then finally they were found in the prison camps, and many parents and children and husband and wife cannot meet each other for years. and this is very inhumane. And it's under the CCP regime. We heard you interviewed thousands of people in the Xinjiang area. Would you please introduce let us know some information about Uyghur, Tatar, Tajik, those minorities, how they were treated by the CCP regime, please?
Yeah, we classified all this information which we collected in the last 5 years, and we're collecting all these first-hand factors all around the Kazakhstan territory. Just like me, around 100 million Kazakhs born in China and immigrated from China to Kazakhstan after then Kazakhstan get independent 1991. And these 100 million Kazakhs, every family they has loved ones who were arrested by CCP regime, and we let these people stand up and give us the first-hand facts bravely, and after then we let the world know what happened in Xinjiang. Because of our activities, the whole world knew what happened in Xinjiang, China, about the arrested young girls and women, the sex labor and raping and the forced labor and destroyed the families. And because these families separated the two, in one of these families members were arrested in Xinjiang, and another part of these families already living in Kazakhstan. And that kind of situation is now continue until now. Now around 20 women, almost more than 1 month, continue picketing the Almaty Chinese consulate at Almaty, Kazakhstan, because they lost their loved ones, husbands, sons, and the brothers in re-education campus. And the Chinese regime, the Chinese embassy or Chinese consulate at Kazakhstan didn't any kind of answer to them. And all these Kazakhs, Uyghurs, we believe them, they are innocent, no any crime. And the Chinese arrested them, sentenced them without any lawyer process and just any kind of reason. Watching foreign video or listening foreign song or using WhatsApp app or any kind of foreign app or any kind of family members or relatives or friends immigrated from China to another country, or around 10 years or 20 years ago, somebody visited the 26 sensitive countries, include the Turkey and the Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan. All of them now belong to crime, and all of them were arrested by CCP regime and now disappeared or sentenced. And we have around more than 30,000 facts. More than 30,000 facts. It is. If we classify them, it is very terrible, very terrible. And if somebody receives any kind of phone call from outside of China, it is also arrested immediately, and no any reason, because of just he received one phone call, and never talking about what kind of phone call, who and what said he or she. Nobody answering, just because of phone call, he or she will disappear from years. And that kind of thing is now just like it is bad than German Nazi, better than the World War II. And now just every day, every second happening in Xinjiang, China. We believe around 500 or 700,000 Kazakhs were arrested by CCP regime. Around 2 million Uyghurs were arrested by CCP regime. And we believe around 50,000 Kyrgyz arrested by CCP regime, and we can't count another ethnic minority called the Tatar, Tajik, or another Hui Muslims. We don't know, because we only collected around 4 Tatar video testimonies and 1 Hui Muslims video testimonies, and around 200 Kyrgyz video testimonies and another video testimonies all based on the Kazakhs. So just like the human rights specialists, estimated that maybe around 3 million Kazakhs and Uyghurs were arrested by CCP regime the last 5 years. We believe it, and we believe we collected the facts. We collected the facts that most of the hospitals now changed to re-education camps, so-called re-education camps. All the hospitals changed, or some part of the hospital were changed. Sometimes the blood center, or some places the higher school already changed to re-education campus. And all facts showed that in Xinjiang, every Kazakh, Uyghur, and the Kyrgyz family, every family lost at least 1 or 2 family members, and the Chinese officials arrest them. And all these things happened now, and the whole world, including the Western world, America and European countries, they just reporting about it, and accepted it. They did nothing. And it is a big shame to the humanity. It is a big shame. It's a big crime to all human beings in the world.
Yeah, I think I have some friends who were working in Xinjiang for a while, and then she went back to Beijing, and everywhere she goes, and she was sanctioned because she was from Xinjiang. She was not even minority Tatar, Tajik, or Uyghur at all. She was just working in Xinjiang, but wherever she goes, the hotel rejected her. She went to Beijing, they rejected her, and she was just telling people, just because I was from Xinjiang, everywhere I go, I run into problems. And people imagine about it. That's real
true. Yeah, that's real true. But it is a very light simple. And it is very light simple. Just a discrimination to somebody because of their passport, because of their nation. But now we collecting the facts about torture, sex slavery. We collecting the facts about beating, threatening. We collecting the facts about any kind of things which you can imagine anti-humanity now happening in Xinjiang, China. So I have one great idea. I want to bring the video testaments, the witnesses, bring them. Thousands of the witnesses, bring them from Kazakhstan to America, and let the American congressmen and senators meet with them one by one. Or let the American media meet with them, talk with them one by one. We have thousands of witnesses, and they were arrested last 5 years in Xinjiang, China, because of our activities, and they released from campus. After they crossed the border, now they're living in Kazakhstan. Also, their life in danger in Kazakhstan also, because the Kazakhstan officials, they want to let them shut up their mouth, never talk about their life inside in Xinjiang campus. So I have one great idea, but I don't know who will help us, what kind of organization will help us, because these thousands of witnesses, thousands of the former detainees, released from camps, women, girls, young girls, and the young gentlemen, all of them, they lost their health inside the camps. And what kind of health? The first, biological health, and the inside the campus, the Chinese government made an unknown medical and biological and another experiment. They forced them to eat unknown medicine. They forced them make unknown injections. After this unknown medicine and unknown injections, and all these women and the men, they lost their protective abilities now. The men, the young men, around 30 years, 35 years, they lost their sexual ability. They can't make love with their wives after the last 3 years. And nobody, any kind of medical center can't check up why it is happening on one strong young Kazakh guy. It is true. It is fact. It is just happening every day, and we connected that fact. So we need the Western country wake up and realize the dangers of Chinese regime. And we need the Western countries, especially American, the NGOs or American, any kind of funds, stand up for us and help us to bring the thousands of witnesses, thousands of the former detainees, let them come to America and check up their bodies. What kind of biological, medical testimonials, experiments did on their bodies by Chinese officials? So we need the help.
Yes, we need help people to understand what really happened in Xinjiang and what happened with each one of those girls who were captured and controlled by the CCP regime under that those kind of prison camps. And so they were tortured, they were sexually harassed, and they forced to marry those old, ugly, old guys who are not there from their region. And so the kind of inhuman treatment toward Kazakhstan, Tatar, Tajik, Uyghurs is just so horrible. And to even treat other people who are not minority people are so badly. And so in China, the human rights violation and genocide in Xinjiang is really should wake up the world. The CCP regime is just the enemy of the whole world. And if we have anyone have any hope or cooperation or think they may get better, the CCP may change, that is just an empty dream. The only thing we can do is take down CCP, and we should not negotiate. They must step down, and the CCP must declared as international terrorist organization. The fact is they are, and their slogan is liberate the entire humanity in the world. Actually, their goal is to take down the entire world. If you take their good, beautiful words, you are cheated. If you don't take their words, then you will be threatened. You will be forced to do something. Like last time when I told my friends what happened when I was working in Shanghai Hongqiao Airport in 1970s, when President Nixon visited China, the ABC News wanted to set up a satellite network there. Satellite dish, they want to install it in the Shanghai Hongqiao Airport. What the CCP regime said is, no way, unless you sold that to us, and also you must train our employee and let us know how to use it. And that is the first coercive and forcible way of doing the CCP doing. Force the ABC News sell that first satellite and train the Chinese. And each one of the steps, whatever the CCP have been doing, is always attacking the United States companies and take over our rights and just rip the human rights, rip off the rights of our companies. So the only thing we can get the people free is take down CCP. CCP must be labeled as illegal, just like in Russia and in East Germany. Otherwise, the whole world will have no peace, and people will have no human rights. And Xinjiang case is a very serious genocide. And this is the truth. It's a genocide. And the former Secretary of State, Pompeo, said exactly what the way it is. So I hope our president, current Biden administration can keep working on taking down CCP. Do not compromise. Compromise only make the CCP go further, attacking the United States.
Okay, thank you, Jane. I think that we're getting close to the end of the show. I would like to put out station numbers once again. Dr. Churchill, do you have any remarks to make before I put out station numbers?
Yes, I think, the most important thing we should recall is that we stand with each other. The most important thing in this world of ours is that we are actually beholden to each other. And if I'm my brother's keeper and, you are our sister's keeper, then we can deal with all these problems together. And I am heartened and joyful that with Jane, who together and with all the other people who are voicing, their strong support of human rights across the world, we can make a better place for all of us. This is why we expose ourselves, to political leadership. This is why we agitate in order to bring accountability to our governments, whether on this side or on the other side of the Pacific. Because as you know, this difficulty is due to lack of accountability of our officials. And it's just always the same case of tyranny. Unelected, bureaucratic, undemocratic, and tyrannical officials are always the ones who cause the greatest hardship, the greatest difficulty in society, and the greatest crimes against humanity, both within the Seattle bureaucracies at the local level and many other cities across the US and many other governorships as well as mayoral palaces, but also in China on those people who live in the new Forbidden City, in BEIZDIڭ, and in the local communities led by the Communist Party. We see the same kind of disgrace today. I wouldn't put it past, these evil bureaucrats and evil mayors, who are allowing so much human rights abuse in our cities of Seattle and elsewhere to be of the same ilk, the same kind of the evil Communist Party officials who cause so much suffering, death, and bloodshed in China. So I think, we should look not very far from our homes to find the evil and sweep it aside. And if every one of us was able to clean up in front of their own doorstep, then the whole world would be a clean and pure place. And I wish for that someday. So for now, and in this era that we are going through the difficult times of the land that still has the people suffering in difficulty, in lockdowns, and under the threat of the epidemic of COVID, let's consider human rights, because ultimately the people who suffer in the regular times, they suffer a lot more in these particularly difficult times. So without further ado, let's step outside of a door and let's see whom we can help today. Thank you. And God bless you, Jane, and God bless, the representative of the human rights from China, as well as all of you who are listening. And remember, we owe to help each other. These are difficult times.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. If you're out there in the listening audience, I have a few minutes for you to call in. Please, at this time, give us a call. The lines are open. Here are the numbers: 425-373-5527 and 888-298-5569. That's toll free in Western Washington. 425-373-5527. The lines are open. Please give us a call. Give us an opinion, ask questions. We have terrific speakers on tonight: Jane Shohang, Jin, and Seriksan Bilәш of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you for being on our show tonight, Mr. Bilәş. Carpe diem and El Dia Presso Liber. I will hope that we can take one or two calls. If we don't, we will continue speaking until the end of the hour. And I will definitely have you back on our show to tell your story more. If there's one thing that we learned from World War II, and I've talked to Dr. Churchill extensively about this, it's that no one knew about the atrocities that were happening in the prison camps, and I believe it was in Poland, to the Jews for the first 2 years or possibly 3 years that they were actually going on. Nobody believed it because the word was not put out well. We didn't have this type of media forum at the time. Didn't have forums that reached out across the country, across the globe. There was no way for these people to cry out, and no one was crying out for them for the first 2 years. Is that correct, Dr. Churchill?
It is actually quite correct. Even the people who cried out, my grandfather who cried, he informed others because he had his own system of intelligence. He was never heard, he was never believed. Especially in these United States, we turned a cold shoulder to even children who came in shipping lines to find safety, and they were returned back and they perished in the concentration camps. There were 2 escapees who came out and they gave vivid accounts of what is happening, and one of them was Hungarian, the other was a Slovak Jew, and they were both somehow not believed until other evidence, photographic evidence, started coming out, and especially when the camps were liberated is when the whole world learned the horrors of the Nazi and the Gestapo and the SS and the Adolf Hitler's, final solution, the Holocaust, this vast extermination, industrial scale machinery that was perpetuated oftentimes with our assistance, with great companies from the United States like IBM and others at the time supporting the build out of this business because it was approached as an enterprise, and we felt that it was rightful to give, the means for this enterprise to flourish. Little did we know that they would use this tabulating and an early type of computer machines in order to tabulate the death and the dismemberment of the whole peoples, the Jewish people and others, such as the Sinti and the Gypsy and everybody else who was deemed unfit or different in society. And what do? We do the same thing today by separating our people and by declaring, the poor, the homeless, and all these others unfit to live in our expensive cities, be it San Francisco, be it in Seattle, and be it in so many other places into which we feel that, poverty, we feel that the difference, we feel that perhaps, the different coloration and the strangest of the ideas that these people ought to suffer, the human rights abuse of homelessness and wars. So I think, we haven't learned too much in the intervening century, and we ought to take the lesson again. In this period of Lent, I suggest that we put our nose to the grindstone and try to help each other, because there is no other safety net in our country. Unfortunately, in the United States also, there is no depth of poverty that you cannot fall down to in these United States because of the vast cost of the medical system and so many people who do not have proper health insurance in this most wealthy nation, and they have to suffer the ravages of, bankruptcy and wars. And so many people now, because of the lockdown and the lack of proper employment, they have lost their homes and they are bound to be homeless. Those people you have to care for. And this is be the greatest priority in this most wealthy of the industrialized nations, into which, the billionaire class has been increasing their wealth by leaps and bounds, whereas everybody else has been reduced to abject poverty. And I think this is the greatest upheaval in our century, and certainly it ought to be in some ways addressed sooner rather than later, lest it results into similar things that happened in the past, that they caused popular uprisings and certainly the complete re-examination of our economic system. I believe a humane capitalism, a compassionate capitalism, a capitalism that shows a face of democracy and love for each other might be the way to go in the future. And as always, it is now still a good idea until we embrace it and it becomes a reality. And the only reason why I'm involved in this, and of course in politics and in leadership, is to make a compassionate capitalism the modus operandi of our country, today, tomorrow, and forevermore. And for that, it's worthwhile fighting, all of us. So thank you, God bless you, and Godspeed, and let us make happen the change that we want to see in this world, starting from inside of us.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. LD, Presto, Liber, Carpe Diem. Thank you to my esteemed guest this evening, our esteemed guest, Jin Shohung Jin. And
hello, it is finished there?
Mr. Bilash, would you like to say a couple words in the end?
Yeah, I want to say to the whole American people, please wake up. Please realize the dangerousness of the CCP regime to the whole human being and the democracy of the world. And that it is a genocide. It is a genocide happening in front of our eyes, and we just keeping silence without any acts. The CCP arresting millions of ethnic minorities, as the CCP is killing, the organ harvesting, sex labor, forced labor, and everything is anti-humanity now happening now, but we just keep silent. The whole world is kept silent. So I just want to tell the whole world, please wake up and stop the CCP making genocide to the ethnic minority in Xinjiang, China.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Blash. And your speech let us know more specific thing what happened there.
Thank you,
we greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Dr. Churchill. Thank you, Mr. Melton, for your great show.
Thank you, Jane. We'll have you on again. This is Radio Liberty for the Puget Sound. We are at the end of our hour. If you're out there listening, please tune in again next Sunday. We will be back with another informative show. That's yours truly, Matthew Melton, and my esteemed co-host, Dr. Pano Churchill, father of the Lincoln Party of Independence. Thank you for tuning in tonight.
This is Radio Freedom.
Thank you to all of my new and loyal listeners. I hope that you enjoyed this evening's show, and I hope that you, Mom and Dad, down in sunny Florida are able to listen in tonight on the KKNW webpage, live stream at 1150 KKNW.com too. Matthew Melton's Democracy Show is a self-funded AM talk show, and I provide my own political commentary and opinion from my liberal democratic bent on many of today's biggest stories in major media and other stories that I think are of value. My show is a new show, and I need sponsors, so presently I'm trying the venues of what is known as crowdfunding and what I'm also calling self-funding, my own self-funding. So, if you care to donate to my show, please write this down. I'm Matthew Melton on GoFundMe.com and Kickstarter.com. And I'm Matthew, that's capital M-A-T-T-H-E-W, dash Melton, capital M, then E-L-T-O-N, dash 3 on Venmo if you use Venmo. I also use Zelle, but you have to email me for that information. If you have any questions, please hit me up on Instagram, where I am Matthew, capital M, and then A-T-T-H-E-W, and there's a space, then capital M, and then E-L-T-O-N, K-K-N-W, host, and my email is Matthew Melton's Democracy Show at gmail.com. If you can't remember any of this, you can email me, please. It's Matthew Melton's Democracy Show at gmail.com. Then my YouTube is Matthew Melton's Democracy Show on YouTube. Please look forward to future installments of my new Crisis Relief Valve chat room for a few jokes, and I'll be trying to live stream online, doing chat on Instagram now after each show. So look me up on Instagram following tonight's show if you're interested. I'm new to live streaming. Be prepared for that. Stay well. And I hope that you tune in next week for another great show. Be safe and have a good evening.